afternoon. Welcome to the tea table. I am so happy you have joined us today. And we have a beautiful tea talk planned for you. And we're going to talk about the Teton Mountains.
Yeah.
And most of you know Elle. For you that are new on the tea table, this is my granddaughter Elle.
Hello.
And she's a world traveler. And
That's funny.
she's been on here before. She went to the
Galapagos Islands. Yeah.
Galapagos Islands. Then she went to
The Dominican Republic.
on a mission trip.
And then to Greece.
And then to Greece
Yeah.
early this summer. Well, she wanted to do an American tour
Yeah.
of road trip.
Road trip. Big road trip. Yeah.
Yes, so I'm going, and I'll just say, if you haven't gotten your tea yet, please pause and get your tea, and I'll be waiting for you. And before Elle starts, I want to pour out, okay? And I'm going to give Elle, this is the cup she chose. She's a girl of color, and she's an artist. And this little teapot reminds me of her. When you were a little girl, Elle, you would color this color, wouldn't you?
Yes. Favorite.
What would you call that?
Hot pink. Yeah.
Hot
probably.
pink and kind of a lime green.
Yeah. Thank you.
So it's almost like a psychedelic teapot.
Yeah, honestly.
It's got butterflies, and then I have this little one, and we're having black tea. And we'll show you our little treat later. But for now, Elle, I want you to just take off and tell us.
About the trip.
Yes.
So I went on my friend's senior road trip was the plan. As I go along, I'll remember how many national parks we went to, but I believe it was 8. I think the plan was 9 total, but things got a little mixed up. So we started here in Washington, and then me and 2 friends started. It was the 3 of us from the beginning, and then we all went over to Glacier National Park in Montana. We made it there in a 10-hour driving day, stopping at a couple places. We stayed one spot in Montana and then went up through Glacier early in the morning, did a hike there, and then went down to Bozeman, Montana, picked up our other friend that would be with us for another week, plus 2 others for the next 2 days. And in there we went, all of us, me and that's 4 friends then also. So me and 4 went to Yellowstone National Park, which was beautiful with the bison, and just it was just amazing and so beautiful. And I'd been there before, but I hadn't been very many places, because last time I was there I had a sprained ankle. So as we can see, Yellowstone leads to injuries, I think, at this point, which you'll learn about in a second. But yeah, so we did that, and then we stayed in a place near the Grand Tetons, so we were able to see the mountains at sunset, and we were playing guitar, and we were living out of a 4Runner with a rooftop tent, 4-person rooftop tent, for 13 days total. So
wow.
that's kind of what the trip was like. And we went up the Middle Teton, which is a little over 6,000 feet and a little less than 7 miles. So the boys carried my stuff, so I was able to make it up, and it was perfectly fine, and I got to the top, and I was really proud of myself. And honestly, it's my favorite hike I've ever done, is the Middle Teton. But it ended a little shakier than we wanted it to, but praise God. I fell glissading, which is sliding on your butt and digging your heels into the snow is how you're supposed to slow yourself down. And I kind of lost control because it was a lot steeper than I anticipated. And I got a large hematoma on my right thigh, and it was dented inwards as I sat there.
Well, first of all,
yeah.
Tell them how far you fell.
So I fell roughly 100 feet, just kind of twirling down, rolling down the mountain a little bit into a boulder field. And I could have, I was going at least 10 miles an hour, people were thinking 15, but I was really rolling. And
what were you thinking?
so I was thinking, oh, okay, I got this. This will be fine. And then I was thinking, whoa, that boulder's a lot closer than I thought it was gonna be. Oh my gosh, I'm going too fast. Whoa, I'm sitting upright. And then I was like, oh, my leg hurts. And then I could not walk, so we had to have someone with a satellite radio call for help, and I got airlifted out, dangling from the helicopter, which was honestly the most amazing, beautiful 12 minutes of my life, but it was a problem for everyone else and difficult for me, and I'm definitely having to, like, I've had to come to terms with, it's okay, everyone's happy, I'm alive, I can walk, I didn't die, nothing
It's a
bad
miracle,
happened, it's fine.
because
So, yeah.
tell what the park ranger said.
The park ranger said, I mean, there's a video, and they were like, when we see like something like this, you should have broken your femur, or if I hit my head and like I could have like cracked my skull up, like it could have been deadly. I mean, deadly maybe, I don't know. I don't want to think of it as that it could be deadly, because that's like,
But it could have been much
it could have
worse.
been really, really awful. Yeah, and I could have done something to my back, but I hit my right thigh, and it's been difficult to walk, and I'm just now going up and down stairs good. I've been able to run a little bit, like I can do the elliptical and walk and all these kind of things, so I'm trying to build back muscle now. But that was day 4 of a 13-day trip, so I went
the miracle
the rest
was
of the trip.
well, the miracle
Yeah.
was that she didn't break anything.
Yeah, nothing
And
broken at all.
I think your mother told me that the ranger said if you had to fall, you did it the right way. God helped her do it the right way.
Yeah.
Because we got a
That's it.
call in the middle of it when your mother didn't know anything other than a park ranger calling and airlifting Elle out of the Teton Mountains. So
Yeah.
everybody prayed, and truly God answered prayer,
Yeah,
didn't he?
very much so. Yeah, I was sitting there in the hospital, and I was like, there's no way it's just a bruise, and I leave here with crutches in an hour. And then an hour later, I was like, this is what's happening, and I felt good enough to continue the trip.
Because her mother called and said, her mother said, I'm on the way.
Yeah, she was like, oh, I'm on my way to Wyoming now to come get you. Like, I'm going to go take a flight. And I was like, but why? It's just a bruise. I can walk, and I want to keep going.
So you can't keep a good girl down. So Elle persevered.
So I was okay, and so from there we went. Everything gets blurred together. So my apologies if I say one state, and then I'm like, no, it's a completely other state. Actually, we went to Utah, to Salt Lake City the next day. With we left the other 2 friends behind because they went back up to Montana because they go to Montana State University, and then me and my 3 friends were like the main part of the trip was Utah, and like we stayed in Jackson Hole that night, and then moved on to Salt Lake City, and then we were going to go to some salt flats, but we didn't, and we moved to, I think we went to some restaurant that was a really fun experience. Some man who was just very skilled in his like food and was very proud of his stuff that he did. And it was just these funny random like road trip moments where it's like you just don't get this anywhere else, so it was really cool. And then we moved, we stayed one night in Arizona, just like part of the border area, I guess, and we went into Utah, and we went to Moab, which was just beautiful. Like you're just driving on the highway. It's just colors everywhere, and
that's
into
so beautiful.
canyons. And that night we spent like an hour and a half searching for a campsite, and just no camping here. It's just there's just the things where it's like this is just how it works. But
were there a lot of people at the national parks?
there were, definitely. We went to, my favorite part of Utah though was Goblin Valley State Park. So just a state park in Utah, just so beautiful. Like apparently not very many people know that much about it, and because it's not a national park, but it is gorgeous, and it's just all of these pillars, and just like it's just a whole other world. Like really one of those landscapes where you just see that, you're like, what? Like that's here.
Utah is so beautiful.
Yeah, and we went, we stayed in Goblin Valley for a while. Once we got to Utah, we had a storm that followed us like 3 nights in a row, and so it was just thunder and lightning all above us, and breaking down tents in the middle of the night, like running into the rooftop, and like just all these crazy things, and just watching thunder and lightning and the stars for like 3 hours straight. And it was just really cool. And went to Dixie National Forest one of the nights in Utah. it was just really like sleeping by cows and just really random, really cool experiences in Utah. We went to Banff, and we were gonna go to Arches, but we overslept our alarm after being awake for the storm for 4 hours one of our nights.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so Utah was really amazing. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else there. There's a lot in Utah.
What state were you in when you climbed the Tetons?
Tetons was in Wyoming.
Wyoming.
And that was day 4, and then we moved on to Utah, and I think Utah went up until I think day 9. Like that was,
wow.
We spent a lot of time in Utah. Like it was like multiple nights just within a couple of miles of each other, I guess, area.
Wow.
Like, and that was our shortest driving days, which was nice. Like we were like, oh my gosh, only 3 hours in the car today. That's awesome. Like,
Because how was your leg doing now?
So my leg became like as long as my arm is pretty much how long like the whole my whole thigh is just completely purple, and like it just, when I'd sleep on it, like the blood would like drain to a different section. It did not look good. Like I had it wrapped, and when I would unwrap it when I was in front of like any strangers, they kind of look over like, what, are you okay? And just, it was fine. But okay, Utah, I got to go to Zion, which I wanted to go to since
you did?
ever. And
I love Zion.
I hiked part of the Narrows in Zion with my thing all wrapped up, and the boys like supported me through some of it. And I was like, this feels dumb. Like slippery rocks and like a walking stick and like a giant like hematoma that's just like double the size of my other leg, and I felt kind of silly doing it, but it was just beautiful. Like, you just look up and it's just, you're so deep in it, just the water and the color, and
Zion
that is the most unworldly. Like, it was,
I think Zion is even more dramatic in a way than the Grand Canyon.
Yeah, no, that was amazing.
There's a certain level there of beauty that it just takes your breath away.
Yeah, and we went to Grand Canyon, the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone, which I didn't know existed, but we did that in Yellowstone before the Tetons and everything, and that's something I just remembered that was really cool.
Wow.
But yeah, that was beautiful. Just this giant waterfall into the canyon, and yeah, so I hadn't ever heard of that before. But yeah, so we went. We bought a hotel a couple weeks before a week before we left. That was really cheap in Vegas, so that we could have a shower and go to a lazy river and relax and walk the strip and just be in Vegas for a bit. And so that's kind of where we moved on to after being in Utah. So that was like the next step, and then from there, that was really fun. We had like a couple hours at Lazy River, and we did some shopping where we go in different places. We really, not a single one of us got an actual souvenir from any of the national parks, because they're just so expensive, and we're all like, we got a couple stickers for cars and everything. I didn't buy a single souvenir besides like $3 worth of some clothes at some Goodwill bins in Utah. I was like, this is a trip that I just am paying for myself, and I don't have to buy anything, so it was kind of nice. But we went one day. The last 3 days are very mixed up in my mind, because it was very like, go home, don't go home, go here, don't know what we're doing. So I believe we woke up really early one morning, and we went through, I think it started with Yosemite. We went to Yosemite National Park, but we also went to Death Valley, and whichever one is the one that's on the way back closest. I believe Yosemite was first, but it's so scrambled in my brain. So we woke up at like 4 a.m. every day for like most of these days, so it's all very like jumbled. But Yosemite, honestly, we were very like underwhelmed after all the other places we had been, because we were like, it just looks like back home, but like some of the mountains were just insane. And the very end, where it's like the whole big cliff and the drop and just waterfalls, that was beautiful. And I was like, whoa, like this is really cool. And then you just leave the park right after that, and so that's definitely like the part of the park you'd want to go to. And then we camped some really random spot we found in like 20 minutes we used a lot of dispersed camping, so like the free forestry, like those areas, so legal like camping everywhere. And then we went, what was next? We went to
California?
California. So we went in through Death Valley. By like 9 a.m. in the morning, it was already like 95 degrees. It was insane. So we got there really early at I think we might have got in like there at 7. You don't need a reservation, because it's one of the national parks. There's a lot of like, you have to decide like, is the park we're going to a reservation? Is it early this time? What time do you have to get? Like all that we had to decide. In this park was like, it was pretty easy, but to get in, but we had to get in early either way because it was so hot. So we're like, oh great, we finally catch a break and we're still here by 5 a.m. So we did that, and then we went to San Francisco, which I'd never been to San Francisco. I thought that was cool to see the Golden Gate Bridge, but it was very foggy that day. Some of our plans fell apart, gridlock traffic, all these sort of things, but I did get to see one of my friends that I went to the Galapagos with, so that was really fun. So I knew that he lived there, and so I texted him before we went there. I was like, oh my goodness, can we meet up? So he was running through the streets of San Francisco, like multiple city blocks, to catch up to our car that was in traffic. I hopped out and then got to hang out with him for a while, and then we met back up with each other, and so that was really fun to just experience that. Go to Chinatown, which I'd always want to go to. I've gone to like the International District in Seattle, but like actually being in Chinatown just feels like, it was just cool, like just seeing different places. Yeah, and then we pretty much just straight shot at home from there. So that night after leaving San Francisco, one of my friends, he was like, I'm not doing this anymore, like I'm gonna drive all the way home from here. We're like, you're totally not gonna be able to actually drive 14 hours. So he drove up past the main national park part of the Redwoods, I think, and so, but then we stopped like on the side of the highway, like one of the pullout areas, and slept there. And then from there, the next morning, we're like, well, we drove through the main part that we were gonna go to for Redwoods National Forest, and so we went to the state park area of it, and we drove through the tree. Like there's a spot where you can go through, and that was really fun, just like doing that. And I mean, we were all exhausted, tired, sick of each other, like that sort of thing. So everything is great, but like pretty much everything from there on you take with a grain of salt, because we were not very happy.
Did you go up along the water?
We did, so part of it we did, but then we had to go the fastest way home. Well, actually, yeah, we did, because
that's
we went
scary,
to,
though, isn't that?
Yeah, exactly.
Straight down.
Yeah, we went to,
I can never do that again. We went on the road from the Redwoods out. I think it's one, or is it?
I don't remember.
It's the one that goes right.
Yeah.
It's straight down. There's no guardrails. I highly recommend don't go on it. I'm still recovering from the trauma.
But yeah, we went to Coos Bay, Oregon, which is
that's
really beautiful. Like
yes.
Alan was like my friend who his trip, he was really set on doing that the whole time. So that was cool, going there, and we just had a couple little stops along the way. We were mainly just like home. We're going home. So then we got back like 9 o'clock one night, unpacked the 4Runner, and I was like, I don't want to see any of you for the next 4 days, but I had to be back the next morning to clean everything and grab all of our stuff and be done, and then we all kind of took a little break, and now we're all hanging out again, and we feel like, oh, remember how 2 weeks ago we were on top of this mountain, and remember how we were sleeping, and it's just
isn't
all
that
the things.
something?
But it was a really like nice to do a trip of like, okay, we can do this, like just teenagers, and we know what we're doing, we know where we're going. It's all experienced hikers, and he had been planning this since December of last year, and we really put it in the works in March, and then shortened it a little, like more and more, and had people part of the trip, part of not, and just but everything worked out as
having
it's supposed
people that follow the rules of the good shoes when you're hiking, and follow all of that, you know, is so critical.
To have people who know what they're doing and understand how important it is to be safe, because clearly when you don't quite measure it, it doesn't work.
But I mean,
so well.
in that situation of Elle, thank God he protected you, and but what a journey, and how many national parks did you hit?
So we went to Glacier National Park, Yellowstone National Park, we went to Banff National Park, we went to Zion National Park, we were going to go to Arches and we didn't, so we didn't hit that, but Goblin Valley State Park I keep in my mind, but that was not a national park, and then Death Valley National Park, Yosemite National Park, Redwoods National Park.
Wow.
And then we should have just driven through Rainier too, so just added it, but no, we didn't. So it was 7 total. It's supposed to be 8, and
so you realize that really they're all close, aren't they? I mean, it's a wonderful journey. You know, I've been to Glacier, and Glacier,
that's my favorite. We all agreed Glacier's our favorite.
Glacier is something else, and it's up. What it is for people that have never been there It's north of Yellowstone.
Yeah,
If-
it's very up there.
Yeah, if you go south, what is the town you go to, Missoula?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, Missoula. If you go south, you go to Yellowstone. If you go north, you go to Glacier. And Glacier actually sits in the Rockies up on the Canadian border.
Yeah.
And my husband and I did that years ago. And if you go over the border, this is something you can do next time. There's a place called Waterton Lakes.
Okay.
And there's a beautiful hotel called the Prince of Wales Hotel,
That's cool.
which is like Quinault Lodge. It's like
Oh my
150
gosh.
years old. It's
Yeah.
really old and rustic. And it was built for the Prince of Wales, and it's blustery and windy, but it's the Canadian glacier side.
That's cool.
So
Oh,
now you have
nice.
another place to go.
That's awesome.
And then if you kept going up, you would go up to Canadian Banff and Lake Louise,
Yeah,
up
all
in the
of that,
Rockies.
That's like that. Really,
Yeah. So this really, what Elle did was, it's considered Pacific Northwest into, what is it then, Southwest? You're
Yeah,
going,
I guess so. And as you're saying that, Banff was in my mind because of Glacier, but we went to Bryce Canyon, not Banff.
Bryce, not Banff.
Bryce
Okay.
Canyon National Park. I'm sorry, again,
Okay.
everything's mixed up. I've been a lot of places, I'm
So
sorry.
Bryce, okay.
Bryce Canyon National Park.
Yeah.
That's like my friend, my friend who went with us, he said that's his most favorite spot in Utah. I mean, that's just, I wish that's a spot I'm going to go back and hike when I can actually walk again.
That's what my son
sure.
Nathaniel said, because he said, and we had gone down for a Thanksgiving a couple of years ago to our daughter in Arizona, and so we drove back in November through Zion.
I remember you telling about the thing.
And-
That's the reason I was so,
Yeah, and Zion, and it's a wonderful time of year because they don't get snow there, you know.
Yeah.
And Zion National Park, what Zion is, for people that haven't been there, it's the converse or the exact opposite of the Grand Canyon. You're flat here and you're looking up,
It's just,
and it's so colorful, so majestic.
it's amazing.
It looks like statues of people, and the rocks. It just, and we were there in autumn, and there were leaves, and
Yeah,
it
you
was
had a really
really,
time.
really, really pretty.
Yeah.
And the Grand Canyon too is that.
I wanted to go there. so
And that
bad, yeah.
trip, that was the first time I'd been to either of those. So, you know, there's so much to see in America. It's hard to see it all. And
Yeah.
most people haven't been to very many national parks.
Yeah.
You know, really. It's rare. So you're very blessed.
Yeah.
And I was telling Ellie last weekend, we drove around the Loop, which is like, it
Just
is,
that,
well,
yeah.
it's a national park.
Yeah,
the Olympic National Park.
Yeah,
There
I
it
know.
is.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Well,
I've
you
done
know,
the
because
same,
Teddy
yeah.
Roosevelt reserved so many
We were-
beautiful
When
places.
we would go places, we were like, thank you, Teddy Roosevelt. Like,
Yeah,
because it's just so special.
What
yeah.
a vision he had to save it for the common man and the people to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And when we were driving around that loop, what came to me was, I've been there, you know, many times. I've lived in this state, but you can't retain the beauty in your mind. You remember it, you know it was wonderful, but you go again, it's like,
A whole new...
it just
yeah.
takes your breath away, and it's so vast.
Yeah.
You see God's creation.
Yeah.
He's so big.
Yeah. I'm remembering another spot we went was Mammoth Lakes, and
Oh.
that was you feel like you hiked like at least 10 miles to get there, but you didn't. You just drove right to it, and it's just, we went to Lake Convict is where we stayed. We stayed a little outside of it, but that was in like I think it was, we went Yosemite that morning, and then to Mammoth Lakes, and then we moved on to Death Valley, somewhere in that order. And Mammoth Lakes it's just giant glacier lakes. I swam in it. Like I used like the biodegradable
wow.
soap, and I took a shower in it, I guess, because that's just what we did. But it's so cold and so
And
beautiful,
where
and just
was
giant
that?
mountains. That's California. Yeah, so like more like Southern California area.
Like after Yosemite.
After Yosemite, I believe. It might
Okay,
have been
Mammoth.
before. I don't know.
There is. I
So
tell you, there
much.
is so much. It's
I went
so
to at
big.
least 20 different random
Wow.
stops throughout the whole thing. So it's so jumbled. So
And then if a person had time, you could go up the California coast
Yeah,
and
you
camp
could
at all the
really-
spots.
yeah.
And then when you get to Oregon, she's talking about Coos Bay.
Just
I think Florence, Oregon is the first
So,
spot.
yeah, something.
And it's beautiful. And then you go Coos Bay, don't they have round rocks there?
I
It's-
believe
it's like
something
very unique,
yeah,
kind of from
yeah.
a volcanic activity. But the Oregon coast, all the way up, we drove that when we went home that in November. It doesn't matter what time of year you go to the Oregon coast. It can be a storm or raining.
Oh,
it is
yeah,
so
and foggy,
beautiful.
but then just
Then it's cozy and it's inspiring.
Yeah, yeah.
And the Pacific Ocean, there's nothing like it lapping against those rocks and
yeah, the whole thing was just, it was a good reminder. Like, I love the world travel, and I'm definitely still itching for some of it, and planning on going up to Canada after visiting a college in, I believe in October is when I'm going, but, so I'm really excited. Like, that's my next country, but this is, like, we have so many beautiful places that don't feel like Earth and have a completely different community, and just within our own, like United States is so big. That's definitely what I learned from traveling to Europe, is like you just there's so much right here. Like, people wonder, like, why don't we leave the country? It's okay to not leave the country. Just go to some pretty places in the United States, because it's
true.
Amazing, and it's pretty cheap.
Yes, because there are a lot of people, and I know you've talked to them. There are people that are my age that live in this state that have never been out on the loop. They said, what is the loop?
Yeah.
The loop is only an hour away.
Yeah. Me and my friends did it last day of spring break. We were like, we're going to go do the Olympic National Park loop because we can, because we live right here. And it's just do it.
And the other nice thing about driving is, you know, when you go to Europe, I love Europe, but you're always carrying suitcases because it is public transportation, most of it.
Yeah.
You can't even drive into London, really, barely. Well, I mean, you can go in a taxi, but you don't want to, and you can't drive into Vienna. Vienna is all public transportation.
Oh, wow.
And so then the whole center, it's kind of cool. You walk around and everything.
Yeah.
But you're always hauling stuff. Whereas in America, when you get in your car, it's in your car, and then you drive, and really, most of these places didn't have traffic jams, did they?
No, not a lot. I mean, Yellowstone is notorious for that, because all the animals and so many people, and so much to be looking out for. But there was definitely tourism, but there was not. I mean, just the open roads and all that.
Yeah, and there's so there's kind of what I felt I had lived. Yeah, do you want to show the treat?
Oh yeah, this is a treat.
It's little cookies from Italy.
Yeah.
They're little peanut butter.
Yeah.
And then this is for Ellie. This is Ellie's schoolboy, because she's going back to school.
Not quite yet, thankfully, but yes. Yeah.
In another week, right?
Yeah.
She's going back to college. In our state, for people that live out of state, we have a program called Running Start. And when you're a junior and senior in high school, you can do 2 years of college. And so she will have an AA degree when she graduates from high school. And then the University of Washington has an agreement with all of these community colleges that they accept all the credits and you can transfer in, which is, so when they say that, then every other college follows suit. So it's all credited.
Yeah.
So that's really exciting. But I was going to say, you know, when I remember living in Europe for a whole year, and I loved it, in all the different countries, and I actually studied in London, and I worked at a historical society, and I had wonderful experiences. But I remember when I flew back to America, I flew back to New York, and I was picked up by a friend. I was in such shock. It was like the cars were so big compared. They're that little cars, and most people in that era in England that were my age didn't own cars. You know, they just couldn't. It was just impossible. The economy was a totally different thing there, and gas was so expensive, and the roads are so tiny, and so everybody's on public transportation. And so I remember coming in and this feeling like, I could just relax, because everything was big, and then all the roads were big, and so there is something to be said, you know, don't miss out on what you have in your own backyard.
Yep, very true.
Yeah, that was a really good word, Ellie, because world travel is good, but and then if you have a camp trailer, that's fun.
Or just a tent and a car is all you need to.
Yes.
If you're able to be okay with that kind of stuff
Right,
too,
as
because that
long-
is difficult. But yeah.
As long as you don't go to bear country, right?
Yeah. Or you have your bear spray like we had. Sadly, we didn't see any bears, but yeah. Bear country's cool.
Well, Ellie, thank you so much for sharing this, and
Thanks for having me.
thank you, God, that she's safe and that
Yes.
He kept you safe.
Definitely. Big
And
miracle.
yes, it's such a, oh my, because that was a shock, but you will write your book someday, and you've got, that will be a chapter.
It's for sure something, yeah.
Yes, and so you're going to get ready and study, and that's exciting.
All of that coming up. Yep.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe. You're welcome. And if you push the notification bell, you'll be notified. And share with anyone. The Tea Talk is dedicated to good news and happy thoughts, and we believe that God is good and in charge, and He's taking care of you, and He's taking care of me, and He has good plans for all of us, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, well, take your tea. I'll give you one more little drop, Ellie. And I will have a little drop, and it's autumn, so put the kettle on and enjoy. And God bless. I'll look forward to seeing you